Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. So I hope everyone's doing good. I been away for a few days here from Film Fanatic headquarters. So yeah, I went to this local music festival, and then I also had a show at this festival. So and one of the awesome perks about this festival, and the festival is called the All Roads Festival. And one of the cool things about the All Roads Festival, if you're one of the performers, is you get to check out as much music as you can. They have like multiple venues going, and it was super awesome and totally inspiring. So I got to see a bunch of music. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I'm gonna probably do a show on the kind of the whole experience, and it was a great time. But so I've been away from doing any videos for a few days, so I'm really excited to. Plus, I hadn't really slept too well in the last couple of days because of all the excitement and all of the stimulation that's been going on, and it's been awesome. I finally caught up on some sleep, so I'm feeling pretty good. So I'll be back to cranking out some more videos. I want to thank the folks that have been, in the meantime, that have been commenting on the videos, and some of the new subscribers. Super awesome. Love you guys. I couldn't do any of this crazy stuff without you. So today's show is going to be, again, another music show. I've been doing some music shows, and I got a bunch of, movies that I'm going to be reviewing coming up this week. Today's Monday, so it'll be a start, like kind of a fresh start again after having a few days off. So about 3 weeks ago or so, I went to this record shop that I had heard about a long time ago that was opened by an artist, a guy I know down in Portland, Remy Brecht, who has a real eclectic list of different like electronic groups that he plays in. Real interesting dude. I've gotten to know him a little bit more. I saw him play a long time ago at Gino's, and then we kept in touch. I remember talking to him at that night. He had this band. It was really a one man show called Scrotal Tear, which is just an amazing name. But the Scrotal Tear music and the kind of whole atmosphere that project created, it's like dark. I don't know how else to describe it. Definitely ambient based, but really dark. Had this kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of vibe to it, but it was very dark, very atmospheric. It kind of reminded me of, if anybody out there is familiar with the work of Aphex Twin, who is one of my favorite electronic artists. I know I've done a show on his work and his influence on me, and he's one of my favorites, legendary electronic artist. He's done, all kinds of amazing records, Drux probably being the greatest album of all time of his catalog. But he also did another, probably my other favorite album of music that he has done, which is actually a double album, is Ambient Works Part 2. And it's a collection of, and again, it's completely different than what he has normally done, I guess, in his career. But the Ambient Works Part 2 is it's all ambient music, and it's all real minimalist, but it's probably my favorite collection of ambient music ever. And the Scrotal Tear stuff has that kind of vibe. It's a little bit more on the darker kind of dark wave sound, but it's amazing. And so I saw him play. It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, and we kept in touch. I talked with him at the show. We kept in touch. Became friends on Facebook, and maybe a year or two after that, I tried to do a show. We were in talks of. I was doing a music festival around that time called the Feedback Music Festival, and it was a little music festival that I ran, and I did it for 3 years, and it was really fun. It was a lot of work. I was by the last one, I was kind of burnt out of doing it, and I never continued it. But we did it 3 years in a row. But it was super fun. I never done anything like that. I haven't done anything like that since. trying to organize a big festival with like 15 to 20 bands and trying to like coordinate it all, and we did two at the Waterfall Arts Fallout Shelter in Belfast, and then we did one, a bigger one, at the American Legion Hall in Belfast. And that was wild. Like there was so many bands, and I tried to get Scrotal Tear and Remy involved when we were talking about doing it, but schedule wise, it never worked out. But so we kept in touch, and then about a month or two ago, I went down to Portland and got to see him play again, and it was amazing. It was really cool. It was like a pure kind of noise show, and I saw like probably about 6 months ago that he had opened a record shop down in Portland, and I was like, wow, that I'm sure that would be pretty awesome to check out. So about a month ago, or a little less, I finally got a chance to go down with a buddy of mine, and we went down to his record shop, and it's in Biddeford, Maine, which is it's a haul from here. I mean, it's a good solid 2 hour drive from here, but man, it's so worth it. I highly recommend it. It's definitely my favorite. I have to say, it's definitely my favorite record shop in Maine as far as straight up buying movie music. It's not really a place like Bull Moose is still the best for movies, and they still have a great music selection. But Remy's place, Color Sound Oblivion, it's called. Definitely check it out. Color Sound Oblivion. It's in Biddeford, Maine. They are open, I think, about 4 days a week. You got to check the schedule. They have kind of funky hours because it's pretty much just him, but it's Sundays are open all day. And I went down on a Sunday, and amazing, amazing place. They mostly specialize in electronic music, but they have punk. They even have some metal, industrial kinds of stuff. But it's mostly kind of focused on more of the underground kind of stuff. And the thing that's so cool about it was when I went in there, I there was probably about 98% of the music that was in there. I did not know who any of these artists were. But the awesome thing about it was on every CD, there's a real detailed kind of description of the kind of the genre and what this particular artist or band kind of sounds like, by listing other bands or other artists. So it's a really awesome way to. It's a great reference point, so it's easy to find something that's your jam if you're into like if you want to get some albums by some bands that are, kind of more on the hardcore side of things or more on the industrial side of things, there'll be, in those respective genres, there'll be, 100 groups that you've never heard of, that fit into that style, more underground stuff. And my favorite style of music is electronic, and I really do love the noise, the more harsh noise and the more extreme kind of thing, quite a bit. And that's a style that I've been a fan of for a long time. And I picked up some albums there that I was just totally blown away by, and I haven't stopped listening to them. And so today's show is on one of those bands. Again, super obscure. I had no idea who the hell this was. But when I read the little description, like I said, I was like, yep, this sounds really cool. I need to buy this. They have a huge, massive CD selection, which I was really surprised because I'm a physical media guy, of course. I own tons of CDs. I listen to CDs a lot. I do stream some music on Bandcamp. Tons of records, obviously, an amazing record selection. They also have tons of cassettes. But amazing shop. Tiny little spot, but it is just packed full. I mean, I could spend hours in this place. I mean, it was pretty inspiring, and we did. My buddy and I, Mike Vickers, we spent probably 2 hours in there easily. Super super cool. So today's show is on one of the CDs I bought, and it's definitely, well, I guess you could say it's music for not the faint of heart. It's definitely experimental. It's out there, but it's very. The thing I love about this is very like cinematic, and that is a band called Werewolf Jerusalem, and the name of the album is called Bloodstalkers. Yeah, what a name. It was recorded in January 2020 by Richard Ramirez. I don't think the actual serial killer, Richard Ramirez, that would be kind of disturbing. But this guy, I've seen this guy, this name, Richard Ramirez, and I think it's his like his art name or artist name. I've seen his name around on a few other albums, particularly at the shop that I bought this at. But and the artwork, I don't know, the artwork is really cool. The artwork is by Jessica King, and yeah, Werewolf Jerusalem Starwalkers, and it's basically one. It's a CD, and it's got two tracks, and I love the simplex the sim, how simple it is, and I don't know, it's just got a cool vibe to it, and it's got two tracks on it, but there's like about I don't know 25. It's about a 35-minute disc, I guess. The first track clocks in at 14 minutes and 58 seconds, and then the second disc is, or the second track is another 14 minutes and 47 seconds. And it's basically two continuous tracks with like kind of a theme and, with some altered variations. It's super minimalist. It's definitely harsh noise, but there's a certain I don't know. There's a cool musicality to it. There's a lot of dynamics because some of the tracks are very quiet, very quiet, and then all of a sudden there's this really intense, kind of harsh, distorted, kind of dark noise that just fills your speakers. It's really interesting, and it's definitely got like this ambient quality. It's very dark, and again, I feel like it has this. Even though there's not like, well, a lot of this kind of music doesn't have really any kind of traditional musical style, or there's not any of the typical tropes that we want or that we know of music. Where you have a verse chorus, those kinds of structure, like a traditional structure, and there's like melody and some kind of catchy element, if you will, to it, or harmony. A lot of this music doesn't have any of those traditional forms. I mean, I think the noise kind of sound, and particularly this band, this group, Werewolf Jerusalem, is definitely way out there fringe, but I think it's very much like in step with punk rock music. It definitely has. It's totally outside the box, and it does. It doesn't stay to. It doesn't really resemble any kind of tradition, I guess you could say. It's the thing that's interesting about some of this music is it really utilizes. It's very minimal, very minimal, but there's a lot of like subtle changes that are going on within the kind of the soundscape of it all. And it's interesting because it kind of puts you in a place of how we interact with our society, and we're say we're in our car and we're driving around and we hear just the sound of waiting at a traffic light, trucks going by or cars going by, or if you're in a park going for a walk or a stroll, and just the sounds of nature, like just everyday sound, that's kind of it's all around us, 24/7, from the minute we get up to the minute we sleep at night. Sound is always, ever present. And I think what this kind of music does is it really kind of augments that experience, and what that can kind of do to our moods, or to our psyche for that matter, or how it will affect us physically. And so it has that kind of primal thing about it. But this album in particular, I think, has a lot of the harsh noise, kind of more experimental stuff has that vibe for me. But this album in particular, for me, has a real kind of cinematic quality to it. Like when I listen to this album, it makes me think of automatically. It kind of puts me in the state of mind of this like post-apocalyptic kind of vibe. It makes me think of like the Road Warrior. Real desolate, real dry, a lot of heat. Being in the desert, like those films by George Miller. It just has this vibe to it, and I feel like when I listen to this, it puts me in the state of mind like I'm on the set of The Road Warrior or Mad Max. It just has that kind of cinematic quality to it, and it's really cool. A lot of this kind of music, and in particular this album is a lot of the harsh noise genre is it's very minimalist. It's very dark, and again, when I first kind of got exposed to a lot of this music, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just, well, bullshit. But again, it's like exploring any other style where I got exposed to this music a long time ago after going to a few shows, and I never really thought of this thing being a genre, if you will, and I checked out some of it, and I was like, well, I don't know if this is something that is really saying anything. But then over time, I checked out quite a few other groups that were or bands that were kind of doing this kind of thing, and I noticed that there was a lot of variety, if you will. Where there, some noise acts where they, where there were a lot of rhythmic, grooves, if you will. Some of it would have this real industrial kind of a sound. Some of it had a real ambient quality to it. And I love the whole kind of dark, spooky vibe of it. And as I took a deep dive into the genre, I realized, oh wait, there is more than meets the eye. And like anything, it's like, if you get into a particular genre of music, you start, and the more that you kind of get into it, you start being able to kind of differentiate it. Like, okay, this is pretty good, or this is maybe not really good, or this is, really, really great. Two of the groups that really happened for me, that when, I really felt like I discovered groups that I really loved. Two groups, Pharmacon. She's a solo artist who does this real intense, super intense kind of industrial tinged noise music. I got to see her perform once down in Portland, actually at Geno's as well. And that was actually the same show that I met Remy. Scrotal Tear was one of the opening bands. And I was just enamored with her music. It was super intense and just, again, it had this real cinematic quality. It made me feel like I was watching Lars von Trier's the Antichrist. It just had this really otherworldly vibe. And then another group that I really started to really love a lot, which is one of my favorite noise groups, is a Montreal-based Canadian group called Wapstan. Just incredible stuff. And when I found these two artists, I was like, oh wait, okay, there's something here. And then from there, I started checking out a lot more other groups, kind of in that style, and I've learned to really love a lot of this music. And this was, again, a real recent discovery. I just bought this a few weeks ago, and I really really dig this album. It's really cool, and again, it might not be for everyone, but this is cool shit. I dig it. And again, it's like I had said, with Pharmacon, it has this War of Jerusalem has this real cinematic quality. So again, my love of movies, when something makes me conjures up those feelings, automatically I'm gonna kind of gravitate towards it. So very very cool. Really, I don't know anything about this artist other than the CD. I couldn't find any information about this group online, but super cool shit. And I think that there's a few other albums that they have out as well, but really underground stuff. This came out 5 years ago, but I highly recommend it. It's super cool. It came out during COVID, so yeah, really really awesome. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.